Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain Two Guns. This movie tells the story of two undercover agents who aim to expose a drug lord. Unaware of each other's true identities, the two get into trouble when they finally meet the drug lord. Will the two's secret mission succeed in the end? Let's find out in Two Guns. Two Guns begins by showing a man named Bobby who is driving a car with a man named Stigman. The two of them walked separately to different places. Bobby went to a bank while Stigman went to a cafe opposite the bank. Bobby and Stigman at that time were planning to commit a heist at a bank in which money was kept from a drug dealer. Bobby monitors the situation inside the bank, while Stigman monitors Bobby from outside the bank. After Bobby left the bank, he approached Stigman and said that the bank's security conditions were very bad and they could have stolen the bank easily. They then set fire to the cafe to distract all the security officers there so they could carry out the theft more easily. The scene then went back to a week earlier. Bobby and Stigman go to Sonora, Mexico, to meet an old man named Greco. Greco is one of the most influential drug cartels in Mexico City. That day, Bobby handed over the fake passport ordered by Greco, and Greco gave him some money as payment. But Bobby refused the money because he wanted payment in the form of cocaine according to their previous agreement. Bobby returns the money and asks Greco to pay for it another time when Greco has the cocaine he asked for. After that, Bobby and Stigman left Greco's place for the city center. When they arrived at the Mexican border, they were intercepted by police officers and arrested on the spot because they could not show their identity cards. They are detained in a separate room. Bobby is interrogated by the head of a DEA agent named Jessup, while Stigman is interrogated by a DEA agent named Debbie. Turns out Bobby is also a member of an undercover DEA agent, and he was indeed assigned by Jessup to catch a Mexican drug cartel which is none other than Greco. Meanwhile, Stigman is completely unaware of Bobby's disguise and does not know that Bobby is a federal agent. And because Bobby has failed to catch Greco so far, Jessup gives him 2 more weeks to complete his mission. After Bobby and Stigman are released, Bobby comes to Stigman's house and invites him to carry out a robbery of Greco's money stored in the bank. Without hesitation, Stigman immediately agreed to the plan. The next day, Bobby and Stigman come to Greco's residence to spy on Greco's activities and his subordinates. After seeing one of Greco's men leaving with a suitcase, they immediately followed the crew's car. And as they suspected, Greco's men were taking some money into the bank which they would later rob. The day before the bank robbery was carried out, Bobby came to a hotel with Debbie to spend the night together and inform her about the robbery plan that he and Stigman would carry out tomorrow. Meanwhile, Stigman goes to a hidden location to meet a Marine captain named Quince. It turns out Stigman is an undercover military police officer assigned to steal Greco's drug trafficking money. Quince then provides all the equipment, explosive devices and weapons that Stigman will need to carry out his robbery tomorrow. Before they separate, Quince orders Stigman to kill Bobby after he successfully completes his robbery mission later. The next day, they put their plan into action. Bobby and Stigman walked towards the bank wearing a mask. Then they entered the bank, pointing guns at everyone in the bank, including security officers and bank employees. After they ordered everyone to lie down, Stigman went straight into the safe and blew up every money locker in the safe. Stigman immediately took the money from the safe and transferred it to the car they had prepared. After all their money was loaded into the car, they immediately left the bank. Bobby and Stigman take the car to a desert and stop to check on the money. At this moment, Bobby and Stigman quickly pointed their guns at each other. But Stigman acts faster by shooting Bobby until he falls helpless. At the same time, Stigman sees the badge in Bobby's hand and realizes that he is a member of the DEA agent. He then left Bobby and took the car loaded with money. Elsewhere, a CIA agent comes to meet the bank that Bobby and Stigman had previously robbed. From that meeting, it was discovered that some of the bank money stolen belonged to CIA agents. Meanwhile, Stigman has arrived at the military police headquarters to hand over the money from the bank robbery to Captain Quince. After counting, the money they managed to rob was $43 million. When Stigman tells Quince that he has gotten rid of Bobby, Quince is still unsure and wants to confirm Bobby's death directly. Quince and his subordinates immediately rush to the desert where Stigman killed Bobby earlier. On the other hand, Bobby managed to survive the shooting by Stigman and only suffered a wound in the stomach. Then he left the desert in an off-road car that had been snatched from 2 strangers who happened to be passing by. When Stigman and Quince arrive at the location, they can no longer find Bobby and intend to kill Stigman. But fortunately, Stigman acted quickly and managed to withstand the attacks of the entire Quince army. The shootout between Stigman and the rest of Quince's troops lasted quite a short time because Stigman managed to escape from that place. Meanwhile, Bobby, who was still injured at that time, came to a veterinary clinic and asked one of the veterinarians to treat the gunshot wound in his stomach. In the evening, Bobby returns to meet Debbie and asks her for help in finding out the background of Stigman. Bobby plans to find Stigman and get back the money he stole. Elsewhere, a CIA agent manages to track down Bobby, who previously came to the veterinary clinic due to reports of off-road car theft. The agent asked the vet who had previously treated Bobby about Bobby's whereabouts, but the vet was clearly unaware of this. That night, Bobby comes to Stigman's house to find out where he is, and find out who Stigman's real identity is. But Stigman was not in the house at that time but in the apartment opposite because he had to hide from Quince and his subordinates. In a short time, Bobby managed to find Stigman's whereabouts and asked about the money they stole. Quince and his subordinates had already come to Stigman's place in the middle of their conversation. Surprisingly, Stigman actually helps Bobby and informs him about the arrival of Quince's troops. Stigman directs Bobby to leave the place before Quince sees him. He even helps Bobby get rid of the Quince squad members one by one with the long-barreled rifle he has prepared. The epic shootout scene between Bobby and Stigman against the Quince army finally happened. Luckily, Bobby managed to escape after blowing up the place. On the other hand, CIA agents come to Jessup and threaten him to tell him all about Bobby's bank robbery. At the same time, Bobby happened to come to Jessup's place, and in a short time, the CIA agents managed to kill Jessup and catch Bobby. Straight to the point, the CIA agent immediately asked about the whereabouts of the bank money that Bobby had robbed earlier. But Bobby replied that he did not know the whereabouts of the money. Then the CIA agent threatens Bobby by saying that he will frame him as the perpetrator of the assassination of Agent Jessup and will imprison him for a very long time. Therefore, the CIA agents allowed Bobby to return the money before making a false report regarding Jessup's murder to the police. Bobby, who looked annoyed, had no other choice but to accept the offer. The next day, Bobby goes to Grieco's house to ask about the bank money that had been robbed. When Bobby was about to arrest Grieco, Stigman suddenly came and snatched Grieco into the trunk of his car. Due to the shot of Grieco's men that distract Bobby, Stigman manages to take Grieco away. Bobby chases Stigman's car into the desert area and starts crashing his car into his car. Stigman then pushes Bobby out of his car and wrestles with him on the ground. The fight between Bobby and Stigman did not last long, as they decided to cooperate with each other and reveal their identities and missions to each other. At this moment, Bobby learns that Stigman is a Marine military police officer. Meanwhile, Stigman learns that Bobby is a police DEA agent. They then find out they have the same mission, namely capturing Grieco and taking the money from the bank robbery yesterday. They finally decided to work together. In the evening, Stigman and Bobby take Grieco to Debbie's garage and begin interrogating him about the whereabouts of their stolen money. Shortly after, Debbie came and looked very surprised by the presence of the three of them. Debbie was annoyed with Bobby because by bringing Grieco to her house, the safety of the three of them could be threatened. Unfortunately, Grieco's men managed to find Stigman and Bobby at Debbie's house and start attacking them. They had no other choice but to let Grieco off to sneak away from that place. Stigman, Debbie, and Bobby try to escape, but Grieco's men catch up and crash into their car. Their car was thrown and they fainted for a moment, but strangely when Bobby and Stigman woke up, Debbie was not in the back seat of the car. Bobby and Stigman are taken to Grieco's ranch in Mexico and hanged upside down. Grieco even beats them and tortures them with the attack of a wild cow as revenge for the kidnapping they did yesterday. Then, Bobby comes up with a crazy idea, which is to tell Grieco that they will return the money from the bank robbery the other day. Actually, both of them didn't know where the stolen money was, but they decided to pretend to know so that Grieco was willing to let them go. After hearing Bobby and Stigman's offer, Grieco chooses to give them a chance to return all the money within 24 hours. Before Bobby and Stigman leave, Grieco threatens them that he will kill Debbie if they don't get the money back. That night when they were about to start their search, Stigman said that most likely the stolen money was still at Captain Quince's base in the Naval Military Office. The next day, before Bobby and Stigman leave for Quince's headquarters, they equip themselves with the equipment and weapons they got from Stigman's old friend. After successfully getting the weapons, Bobby and Stigman immediately went to the police military office to collect the stolen money. Stigman immediately infiltrated the Admiral's office to report all criminal acts from Quince, while Bobby immediately sneaked into Quince's room to take the money. After hearing all the explanations from Stigman, the Admiral chose not to interfere in this case as this could damage the military reputation of their navy. The Admiral ordered his subordinates to expel Stigman from the Naval Army office. Meanwhile, Bobby, who managed to find Quince, immediately pointed a gun at him and forced him to open the safe. After Quince's safe was opened, it turned out that there was no money at all in it. Then, Quince explained that all the stolen money had been taken away by Debbie, because all this time, he and Debbie had been conspiring to get the money. When Quince's men catch Bobby threatening Quince, Bobby immediately leaves Quince's room and tries to escape. Bobby cleverly looks for a military uniform and disguises himself as a member of the Marine military. Bobby managed to escape after blowing up the office and outwit all the security guards at the base. That night, when Bobby was on his way to Debbie's house, Grieco called him and said that he and Stigman were too late to return the money, so he killed Debbie right away. Bobby then comes to Stigman to plan a trap for Grieco before he finally goes to Quince's hotel and finds their loot under Debbie's bed. After finding the money, Bobby immediately called a CIA agent to return the money and asked the CIA to acquit him of the charge of Jessup's murder. The next day, Stigman asks Grieco to meet him and says he will return the money. When Grieco and all his men arrive, Quince suddenly appears and asks for 50% of the $40 million that Stigman gave. Stigman plans to pit Quince against Grieco. In the middle of negotiations between Grieco and Quince, the CIA agents came with a number of troops and helicopters to seize the stolen money. Shortly after, Bobby arrived in a car loaded with the stolen banknotes. Then Bobby handed the keys to the CIA and walked away with Stigman. But a few seconds after Bobby and Stigman walked away, they immediately detonated the car and shot all Grieco's, Quince's, and the CIA members to provoke a commotion. As it turned out, Bobby and Stigman did intend to pit Quince, Grieco, and the CIA so they could escape safely. Unfortunately, Quince and a CIA agent can find Bobby and Stigman. The CIA agent points a gun at Bobby and Quince points a gun at Stigman. Both of their positions were cornered, but with quick action, Bobby and Stigman were able to turn things around and managed to kill Quince and the CIA agent. Then they came to Grieco, who was dying to kill him. The two of them were finally able to leave that place and continue their friendship. At the end of the film, Stigman invites Bobby to do another bank robbery elsewhere, but Bobby refuses because he actually still keeps part of the money they stole from their previous bank. The moral that can be learned from this film is that greed and abuse of power will bring nothing but greater suffering and loss.